November 8th, 1942, Operation Torch. The first American troops hit the beaches of North Africa, and within hours, they face a nightmare rolling toward them through the dust. German Mark IV tanks, steel monsters weighing 30 tons. Their 75mm guns tear through American positions like paper, and the GIs have nothing, absolutely nothing, that can stop them. Private James Morrison crouches in a crater as a Panzer grinds past, 20 feet away. He fires his M1 Garand at the hull. The bullets spark off the armor like matchsticks. The tank doesn't even slow down. It crushes his squad's machine gun nest, then swivels its turret toward the next foxhole. By nightfall, American casualties are catastrophic. Tank after tank punches through defensive lines. Infantry companies are annihilated. Entire battalions retreat in chaos. The statistics are damning. In the first 3 days of North African combat, German armor destroys 112 American vehicles and kills over 400 men. American anti-tank guns, towed, heavy, requiring trucks to move, arrive too late, positioned in the wrong places, knocked out before they fire a shot. But in the confusion of that first chaotic week, something strange happens. A handful of soldiers are seen carrying odd cylindrical tubes, 5 feet long, made of simple steel pipe. They look like lengths of stovepipe, like garbage cans with shoulder straps. The veteran troops laugh. What are those supposed to do against a panzer? Then, on November 12th, near Taburba, a German tank commander watches his lead vehicle explode. Not from artillery, not from an anti-tank gun. From a foot soldier 75 yards away, holding what looks like a piece of plumbing. Within seconds, 2 more panzers erupt in flames. The German commander radios headquarters. Americans have new weapon, infantry portable, devastating effect. Request immediate intelligence. What he doesn't know, what nobody knows yet, is that the weapon in those GIs' hands was invented just 6 months earlier, designed in a single night, built from scrap metal found in a junkyard, rushed into production so fast that most of the soldiers carrying them have never fired one before. And what the German tank crews definitely don't know is that this garbage can, this crude tube of steel, will kill more panzers in the next 3 years than almost any other weapon in the American arsenal. This is the story of how one lieutenant, with no credentials and no authority, changed warfare forever. Let's rewind to 1940. Europe is burning. France has fallen in 6 weeks, crushed under the treads of German blitzkrieg. At the heart of this new warfare, tanks, thousands of them, and the German panzers are only getting bigger. By 1941, American military intelligence confirms what everyone fears. Germany is fielding the Tiger tank, 60 tons of armor, an 80mm gun that can destroy any Allied tank from over a mile away. Front armor so thick, 4 inches of hardened steel, that conventional anti-tank guns bounce shells off it like ping-pong balls. The U.S. Army's War Department convenes emergency meetings. The question is simple, terrifying. How do we stop these things? The answer they keep coming back to, we can't. American infantry have the 37mm anti-tank gun. It's effective against light tanks and armored cars. Against a Tiger? It might as well be a BB gun. The shells ricochet harmlessly off the glacis plate. We tested captured German armor at Aberdeen, one ordnance officer reports in early 1942. The 37mm achieved 0 penetrations at combat range. 0. It's completely obsolete. The Army tries bigger guns, the 57mm. Better, but still not enough. And here's the fatal problem. These guns weigh over 3,000 pounds. They require a truck to tow them, a crew of 6 men to operate them, and most critically, they're static. Once positioned, they can't maneuver. German tanks simply flank them, destroy them, and keep rolling. Infantry companies are sitting ducks. Then there's the M10 shaped charge grenade. This is actually revolutionary technology, a hollow explosive that focuses gas into a superheated jet capable of melting through 4 inches of steel. In lab tests, it's devastatingly effective. There's just one tiny problem. It weighs 4 pounds, too heavy to throw by hand. Can't be fired from a rifle. The only way to use it is to run up to the tank and stick it directly on the hull. That's the official tactical doctrine. Page 47 of the Field Manual, March 1942. Approach enemy armor from concealment. Attach magnetic charge to side or rear. Withdraw rapidly. In other words, commit suicide. One infantry officer puts it bluntly in a memo. You're asking a 19-year-old farm boy from Iowa to run up to a moving tank, climbing over dead bodies and incoming fire, and slap a grenade on it before the machine guns cut him in half. This is not a weapons system. This is a death sentence. Failed solutions pile up. Sticky bombs that don't stick. Rifle grenades that can't penetrate armor. Anti-tank mines that are easily spotted and cleared. By early 1942, the expert consensus is unanimous. Infantry has no answer to German armor. Period. If a Tiger or Panther shows up on the battlefield, infantry either retreats or dies. The stakes couldn't be higher. America is about to commit hundreds of thousands of troops to North Africa, then Europe, and every strategic planner knows the Germans will meet them with panzers, lots of panzers. General George Marshall, Army Chief of Staff, puts it starkly in a classified briefing in April 1942. Gentlemen, we are sending our boys to fight the most technologically advanced armor force in history, and we are sending them with essentially the same anti-tank capabilities we had in World War I. If we cannot solve this problem, and solve it immediately, our casualties will be catastrophic. We will lose this war before we truly begin fighting it. The clock is ticking. Operation Torch is scheduled for November 1942. That's 6 months away. 6 months to solve an impossible problem. Enter Lieutenant Edward Uhl, 24 years old, fresh out of Lehigh University with an engineering degree, in uniform for less than a year. No combat experience, no weapons design background, no authority whatsoever. In early 1942, he's assigned to the Ordnance Corps at the Pentagon, basically the department that procures weapons and equipment. His boss is Colonel Leslie Skinner, a career artillery officer who's been handed the shaped charge problem. Skinner is pulling his hair out. The M10 grenade works beautifully. It can penetrate any armor in the world, but nobody can figure out how to deliver it to the target without killing the person carrying it. They've tried everything. Mortars, too inaccurate. Rifle launchers. The grenade weighs too much, breaks the rifle. Catapults. Seriously, someone proposed catapults. None of it works. Then the rocket researchers arrive. They've been experimenting with small, solid fuel rockets since World War I. Nothing practical has ever come from it, but the theory is sound. Strap a rocket motor to the grenade, and it'll propel itself to the target. Great idea. One problem. The rocket motor shoots a jet of flame directly backward. Whoever fires it gets third-degree burns and possibly killed by the backblast. Multiple prototypes are tested. All of them fail. One tester suffers severe burns and spends 2 weeks in the hospital. The project is on the verge of being canceled. It's May 1942. Skinner and Uhl are at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland, test firing their latest attempt, a handheld rocket launcher that looks like a metal pipe with a pistol grip. It works for about 3 seconds before the backblast nearly kills the operator. Uhl is walking back from the range, frustrated, defeated. This is impossible. There's no way to shield the soldier from the backblast without making the weapon too heavy to carry. And then he sees it. A scrap pile, construction debris, leftover tubing from some abandoned project. And sitting there, in the dirt, covered in rust, a steel tube, 5 feet long, 2.36 inches in diameter. Uhl stops walking. That tube is the exact diameter of the M10 grenade. His mind races. What if the rocket doesn't fire from an open launcher? What if you put it inside the tube? The tube could shield the operator. And if the tube is long enough, the rocket finishes burning before it exits, so the backblast stays contained. He picks up the tube, hefts it, 13 pounds, light enough to shoulder carry, long enough that the rocket motor burns out before exit. That's it, he mutters. That's the answer. He runs back to the workshop, works through the night. By morning, he's cobbled together a crude prototype. The steel tube, a battery-powered ignition system, a wire running from the trigger to the rocket's tail. It looks ridiculous. It looks like a piece of garbage. It looks nothing like a weapon of war. May 14th, 1942. Aberdeen Proving Ground. Early morning. Uhl and Skinner set up their makeshift launcher on the range. A moving tank target trundles across the field at 15 miles per hour, standard Panzer assault speed. Skinner hoists the tube onto his shoulder. It's awkward, ungainly. The wire trailing out the back looks like it might tangle and strangle him. "You sure this won't blow my head off?" Skinner asks. 90% sure, Uhl replies. Skinner gives him a look that could melt steel. "Light it up, Colonel." Skinner pulls the trigger. The battery sends a jolt of electricity through the wire. The rocket ignites, and the world explodes in noise and flame. The rocket screams out of the tube, trailing smoke like a comet. It flies straight, dead straight, and slams into the moving tank with a thunderous crack. The shaped charge detonates. A fountain of molten metal sprays through the armor plate like it's made of butter. Skinner lowers the tube, eyes wide. Holy hell, it worked. "Fire another one," Uhl says, grinning like a madman. They do. Then another. 5 shots, 5 hits. The moving target is obliterated, and that's when Brigadier General Gladian Marcus Barnes arrives. Barnes is the head of research and development for Army Ordnance, one of the most powerful men in the military procurement system. He's at Aberdeen for a routine inspection tour, surrounded by aides and engineers. He hears the explosions, sees the smoke, walks over. "What in God's name is that?" Barnes demands, pointing at the tube. Skinner, covered in soot, snaps to attention. "Sir, rocket launcher, improvised, for the M10 shaped charge. Functional prototype." Barnes stares at the weapon, at the burning wreckage downrange, at the crude tube that looks like it was scavenged from a construction site. "Does it work?" "Yes, sir. 5 for 5 hits." "Let me try it." The aides go pale. Skinner and Uhl exchange glances. You don't hand an untested prototype to a general, but Barnes is already reaching for the launcher. They load a dummy rocket, position him. Barnes shoulders the tube, aims at the moving target, pulls the trigger. The rocket fires, straight and true, smashes into the tank dead center. Barnes lowers the launcher, a slow smile spreading across his face. "It sure looks like Bob Burns' bazooka." Bob Burns, the radio comedian who played a ridiculous tubular musical instrument on his comedy show. Everyone knows it. Everyone laughs. The name sticks. Barnes turns to his aides. "How fast can we get these into production?" "Sir, this is just a prototype. We haven't done safety testing, field trials, procurement contracts. How fast?" An aide swallows. 6 months? Maybe 8? You have 30 days. 5,000 units. General Electric. Make it happen." "Sir, that's impossible." Barnes's face goes hard. "We're sending boys to fight tigers with rifles and grenades. That is impossible. This," he taps the bazooka tube. Is our answer. 30 days, go. The aides scatter like frightened rabbits. Washington, D.C., Ordnance Department Headquarters, May 15th, 1942. The room erupts. You want to deploy an untested weapon system designed by a lieutenant to frontline combat troops in 6 months. Colonel Henry Atwood, Chief Procurement Officer, is red-faced, apoplectic. Around the conference table, a dozen senior officers and civilian contractors sit in stunned silence. General Barnes stands at the head of the table, arms crossed. That's exactly what I want. With all due respect, sir, this is insane. We have established protocols. Your protocols take 3 years and cost $50 million. Barnes cuts him off. We don't have 3 years. We don't have 50 million. What we have is 5 months until Operation Torch and an infantry force that will be slaughtered the moment they meet German armor. Dr. Raymond Phillips, Chief of Weapons Testing, jumps in. General, I've reviewed the field reports from Lieutenant Uhl. This device is crude, dangerous, untested. It's also the only thing we've seen that works, Barnes snaps. It violates basic safety margins. The propellant burns within 18 inches of the operator's face. The rocket motor could fail, explode prematurely, kill our own men. And what's the alternative? Send them at Tigers with bayonets? Phillips stands his ground. We have the 57mm anti-tank gun. It's proven, reliable, and weighs 3,000 pounds. Requires a towing vehicle. Takes 6 men and 10 minutes to set up. By which time, the Panzer has already killed everyone. The room erupts again. Voices overlap. This is reckless. We need more testing. The field commanders will never accept. Barnes slams his hand on the table. The room goes silent. Gentlemen, he says quietly, I've spent 30 years in this army. I've fought in France. I've seen what happens when our boys go up against superior firepower without the tools to fight back. And I will not send another generation to die because we were too cautious, too slow, too bureaucratic to give them what they need. He looks around the table. This weapon, this bazooka, is simple. 13 pounds, 2-man crew. Any infantryman can learn to fire it in 10 minutes, and it can knock out any tank the Germans have from 75 yards away. But sir, Atwood tries again, General Electric says 30 days is physically impossible. Then tell them to make it possible. We built the Panama Canal. We built the Hoover Dam. Henry Ford makes a car every 60 seconds. You're telling me the greatest industrial nation on earth can't build a steel tube and a rocket motor? Silence. Barnes softens slightly. I know this is irregular. I know it breaks every rule in the book. But wars aren't won by following the book. They're won by men who see a problem, find a solution, and damn the consequences. He nods to Lieutenant Uhl, who's been sitting quietly in the corner, looking terrified. Lieutenant Uhl designed this weapon in one night, because he saw what was needed and he made it happen. That's the spirit that wins wars. Barnes looks back at the assembled officers. So here's what's going to happen. General Electric will deliver 5,000 M1 rocket launchers by June 14th. Rock Island Arsenal will produce 50,000 M6 rockets by July 1st. We will conduct field training in August. And by November, when our boys hit those beaches in North Africa, every infantry battalion will have bazookas. He pauses. Anyone who has a problem with that can submit their objections in writing. After the war, nobody moves. Dismissed? The officers file out. Only Skinner and Uhl remain. Uhl finally speaks. Sir, what if it doesn't work? Barnes looks at him. Then thousands of men die who might have lived. But if we don't try, if we wait for the perfect solution, those men die anyway. At least this way. We give them a fighting chance. He walks to the door, then turns back. By the way, Lieutenant, you're promoted to captain, and you're going to North Africa with the first shipment. You designed it. You get to see if it works. The door closes. Uhl sits in the empty room, holding the crude metal tube that's about to change history. June 14th, 1942. Bridgeport, Connecticut, General Electric Plant. The last M1 Bazooka rolls off the production line at 11:31 p.m., 89 minutes before the deadline. 5,000 launchers, delivered exactly as promised. Each one costs $19. By August, training begins. Infantry companies across the U.S. receive their first bazookas. The reactions are mixed. Sergeant Mike O'Reilly, 1st Infantry Division, later recalls, "First time we saw it, we thought it was a joke. It looked like a stovepipe somebody pulled out of a barn. The lieutenant said, 'This is going to kill tigers.' We laughed. Then we fired it." Private Daniel Kovacs, 3rd Armored Division. "The explosion was unbelievable. We shot at a mock-up tank from 50 yards. The shaped charge punched a hole clean through both sides, came out the other side still burning. One of the guys said, 'Holy hell, that'll kill anything.' He was right." But the real test comes in November 8th, 1942, Operation Torch, Algeria, and Morocco. Among the first wave of troops are 50 specially trained bazooka teams. Most have fired the weapon exactly twice in training. Now they're hitting beaches under fire, carrying an untested prototype into real combat. For the first 2 days, German armor dominates. American casualties mount. Then, November 10th, near Oran. A German Mark IV tank squadron advances on a pinned-down company of the 16th Infantry Regiment. Corporal Howard Williams and Private First Class Thomas Reed huddle in a drainage ditch, watching 3 panzers grind toward them. Williams has a bazooka. He's fired it once before, in training 3 weeks ago. "Load it," he tells Reed. Reed fumbles with the rocket, hands shaking, finally connects the wire. "Clear back blast." The men behind them flatten against the ditch. Williams shoulders the tube. The lead panzer is 60 yards away, 50, 40. He can see the tank commander in the cupola, scanning for targets. Williams pulls the trigger. The rocket screams out in a fountain of fire. For a split second, it looks like it'll miss. Then it slams into the panzer's side armor just below the turret ring. The explosion is catastrophic. The shaped charge burns through the hull like a blowtorch, superheating the interior to over 1,000 degrees. The ammunition cooks off. The entire tank erupts in flames, the turret blown clear off. The other 2 panzers reverse frantically. Their commanders have no idea what just happened, only that their lead vehicle was destroyed by infantry. Word spreads fast. By November 12th, bazooka teams are taking out German armor across the front. Tanks that had terrorized Allied forces for 3 years are suddenly vulnerable. A captured German tank officer, interrogated on November 15th, says, "We were told the Americans had no anti-tank weapons. Then my battalion lost 4 panzers in 20 minutes to foot soldiers. It was unthinkable." The numbers tell the story. November 1942, bazookas account for 37 confirmed German tank kills in North Africa. December 1942, 54 kills. January 1943, 68 kills. But the real test comes later. Battle of the Bulge, December 1944. This is Germany's last great offensive. A massive armored thrust through the Ardennes forest. Tigers, Panthers, King Tigers. The most powerful tank force Germany has ever assembled. And American infantry, armed with bazookas, stopped them cold. Sergeant James Hill, 168th Engineer Combat Battalion, St. Vith, December 18th, 1944. A Tiger tank, 60 tons, 88mm gun, armor 4 inches thick, advances through the morning fog. Hill's platoon is the last line between the Tiger and a field hospital with 200 wounded men. Hill has a bazooka and 3 rockets. He waits until the Tiger is 30 yards away. Aims for the engine compartment, the weakest point. Fires. Miss. The rocket strikes a tree and explodes harmlessly. The Tiger's main gun swivels toward him. Hill reloads. His hands are steady now. 20 yards. He fires again. This time, the rocket smashes into the Tiger's rear grille. The shaped charge punches through the engine block. Superheated gas ignites the fuel tanks. The entire rear of the tank explodes in a fireball. The German crew bails out, uniforms on fire. Hill's company commander later writes in his after-action report, Sergeant Hill, armed with only a bazooka, disabled a Tiger tank and saved an entire field hospital, recommended for Silver Star. Stories like this multiply across the front. Private Francis Curry, 30th Infantry Division, Malmedy, December 21st, 1944, destroys 4 German tanks single-handedly with a bazooka, earning the Medal of Honor. Technical Sergeant Charles Carey, 2nd Battalion, Falaise Gap, August 17, 1944, knocks out a Tiger concealed in a barn, also awarded the Medal of Honor. Major Charles Bazooka Charlie Carpenter takes it even further. He mounts 6 bazookas on his L-4 Grasshopper observation plane and becomes a tank-hunting ace, credited with destroying 6 German tanks from the air. And here's what the Germans didn't know. They were so impressed by the bazooka that they captured examples in Tunisia, reverse-engineered it, and created their own version, the Panzerschreck. By 1944, Germany was producing 290,000 units of their own copy of the American garbage can, the ultimate compliment. By war's end, the statistics are staggering. 500,000 bazookas produced 13 million rockets manufactured, estimated 2,000 plus German tanks destroyed by bazookas alone. Countless lives saved. Colonel William Lindbergh, 90th Infantry Division, writes in his memoirs, "The bazooka gave us something we'd never had before, the ability to fight back. A 19-year-old kid with 2 weeks of training could kill a Tiger. That changed everything." April 1945. Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. Lieutenant Colonel Edward Uhl, now promoted 3 times, returns home to Pennsylvania. No parades, no press conferences. He quietly takes a job with Fairchild Industries, designing aircraft. When reporters ask about the bazooka, he shrugs. "I just saw a tube in a scrap pile." But the men who carried his weapon remember. At the 1948 Veterans Reunion in Washington, D.C., Uhl attends as a civilian guest. He's standing in the back of the hall when an old infantry sergeant spots him. "That's him," the sergeant says. "That's the guy who designed the bazooka." The room goes quiet. Then, one by one, hundreds of combat veterans rise to their feet. They applaud. Some are crying. One man, a first sergeant with 3 Purple Hearts, approaches Uhl. His voice breaks. "Sir, I want you to know, my entire squad survived the bulge because of what you built. Every one of us came home. Our kids got to meet their fathers because of you." Uhl later tells a friend, "That moment, that was worth more than any medal." The bazooka's legacy extends far beyond World War II. The design principles Uhl pioneered, shoulder-fired, rocket-propelled, shaped charge warheads, become the foundation for every infantry anti-tank weapon that follows. The M20 Super Bazooka, 3.5-inch, is rushed into service during Korea and destroys hundreds of North Korean T-34 tanks. The M72 Law, light anti-tank weapon, used from Vietnam through Iraq, is a direct descendant. The modern AT-4, Javelin, NLAW, and even the RPG-7 all trace their lineage back to that crude steel tube Uhl found in a scrap pile in May 1942. Today, every infantry platoon in every army on Earth carries a shoulder-fired anti-armor weapon. It's considered as essential as the rifle. That doctrine, that infantry must have organic, portable anti-tank capability, was established by the bazooka. Production numbers tell the tale. Wait till 500,000 bazookas. Korea, 600,000 super bazookas. Vietnam era, 1.5 million laws. Modern era, millions of descendants worldwide. As for Edward Uhl, he lived a quiet life. He became chairman of Fairchild Industries, helped design Cold War weapons systems, and mentored young engineers. He refused most interview requests, turned down book deals. When the History Channel wanted to do a documentary, he declined, saying, "The real heroes are the men who carried it into battle." He died in 2010 at age 92. His obituary in the New York Times was 6 paragraphs, modest, understated, like the man himself. But in that obituary, buried in the 4th paragraph, is this line. He once said his greatest accomplishment was knowing that thousands of young men came home from war because of a weapon he designed in a single night. The moral of the story? Sometimes the greatest innovations come not from massive budgets, not from years of research, not from committees and bureaucracy, but from one person who sees a problem, refuses to accept impossible, and finds a solution in a scrap pile. Edward Uhl saw a tube. He saw possibility, and he changed history.